So Jesus said, before this verse, he said, in the last days, there'll be false prophets. How many of you know if there's false ones, there's got to be real ones? If there was only false $20 bills, how many of you know it wouldn't take a genius to figure out it was a fake, counterfeit $20 bill? Who would take a $20 bill if they were all counterfeit? This is deep. I understand that. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing. Okay, let's just think through this. They come to you in what? Sheep's clothing. But inwardly they're ravaged wolves. You'll know them by their fruits. Grapes are not gathered from thorn bushes, nor figs from thistles, are they? So every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit, nor can a bad tree produce good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down, thrown into the fire. So then, you'll know them by their fruit. Okay, so let's stop and say, Jesus said two things so far about false prophets. Three things. One, that there will be some. Number two, that they look like sheep. So the false prophet is I'm a demon. They look like sheep. And three, you'll know them by what? Their fruit, right? Okay, now, so we have to ask ourselves the question, what fruit? What fruit? What kind of fruit are we talking about? Are we talking about wrong prophetic words? Well, I just showed you that somebody who had a spirit of divination had right prophetic words, right? Okay, so you'll know them by their fruit. And then he goes on to say, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Okay, did you notice we're still on the same subject? Are you following me? Listen, I just want you to get this because I see these two subjects separated all the time, and I'd like to propose to you that Jesus is still on the same subject of false prophets. So he's still talking about false prophets. He opens the subject of false prophets, and now he says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, or whatever they say, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does what? The will of the Father who's in heaven will enter. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name cast out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? And I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who what? Practice what? Lawlessness. Okay, second part, what Jesus describing false prophets. What does he say? They look like sheep, but they're not, right? They look like they're sheep, but they got the wrong heart, right? Inside they're wolves. Got it? Secondly, what did they do? He said that they produce bad fruit. They produce bad fruit, okay? Now, the question is, what does fruit look like? So Jesus goes on to tell us what fruit looks like. He says, the fruit that they bear is not about miracles, because he said, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom, and then they'll come to me and say, didn't we cast out demons? Didn't we do miracles? Didn't we prophesy? Now, you'll notice he does not say they're liars. Did you notice that? He didn't say false prophets are liars. He said, and he doesn't say, no, they didn't do miracles. So we have to assume that false prophets are like sheep. They look like sheep, right? They bear bad fruit, but the bad fruit they bear has nothing to do with the power that flows through them. Because in this passage, it appears to me that they do prophesy, they do cast out demons, and they do heal the sick. Uh-oh, now we have a problem. Because false prophets can produce good signs. But now he gives us a hint of what the bad fruit is. He says, depart from me, I what? Never knew you. I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. Okay, so then you ask yourself, okay, if bad fruit is lawlessness, what does Jesus think lawlessness is? Is he talking about the law of Moses? Like, depart from me, you don't practice the law of Moses. No, you have to think through this. These are Jews he's talking to. So he's going to define fruit for us. He's not saying bad fruit is bad miracles because he says they do miracles. So what does lawlessness mean? So now he goes on to tell us what lawlessness means. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them may be compared to a wise man who built his house on a rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and slammed against the house, and yet it did not fall. For it had been founded on the rock. Everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain fell, the floods came, the winds blew and slammed against the house, and it fell, and great was its fall. Now, how many of you have ever heard those verses taught before? How many of you have ever heard those verses taught with reference to false prophets? Because that's the subject. Jesus is telling you what bad fruit is. Bad fruit are people who hear the word and don't do anything about it. They hear the word, but they have no deeds. They're lawless because when Jesus speaks to them, they don't obey. They do signs and wonders and miracles, but they don't listen to anyone. They build their house on the sand. What is sand? It's particles of rock. What's that mean? It means their doctrine is built on pet peeves. It's not the whole gospel. It's a few weird verses. Are you with me? In other words, they defend themselves because when you confront them, like they have a verse for it. But they haven't built on the rock. They haven't built on a stone that encompasses the entire gospel. They've built on a few pet scriptures that they use to validate their dysfunction. Are you with me? So let's just go through the points quickly. False prophets have a belief system that's founded on pet scriptures, on sand, pieces of the rock. Number two, number three, false prophets appear to be good. That's number one. Number two, their belief system is built on sand. It's pet scriptures. Number three, false prophets have power. And Jesus said that in Matthew 24, for false Christs and false prophets will rise and show signs and wonders and mislead many, even the elect if possible. So this is where people get this, like, you guys are moving in signs and wonders. You must be false prophets. Why? Because they think that anyone who moves in signs and wonders is a false prophet, because they take Matthew 24 and they go, these people are deceiving people because they walk in signs and wonders and they call themselves prophets, so therefore they must be evil. But remember, Jesus didn't say everyone who does signs and wonders is evil. In fact, in Mark 16, he says, these are the signs of those who believe, not these are the signs of the false prophets. So how many know if you're doing signs and wonders and miracles as sheep, how would you slip in if you wanted to deceive the sheep? You would have to be able to do what they do. Otherwise, people would go, you must be a demon. You can't do signs and wonders and miracles. In other words, the culture of the saints is so supernatural that in order to fit in, you have to do signs and wonders and miracles. That's why people think you're a believer, because you're doing what the sheep do, and yet you're a wolf. That's the culture. See, they would fool even the elect. Why? Because everyone's doing signs and wonders. They're all wearing the sheep clothes. What do sheep do? These are the signs of those who believe. These signs will follow those who believe. They'll cast out demons. They'll heal the sick. They'll lay hands on the sick and they shall recover. No deadly poisons. This is the signs of people who believe. These are what believers look like. So if I wanted to come in and deceive you, I'd have to be able to do what you do. Otherwise, it would be a lot easier for Jesus to say, false prophets are people who can't do signs and wonders. You'll know them because they stick out in the crowd because they can't do miracles. But instead he says they have power. Like, it looks like your power, but guess where the anointing's coming from? You all right?